guys, this is a damn nerd here, and today I'm talking about why I believe FromSoftware Games or Souls-likes are the most overrated games in the industry, with the most toxic fan base of gatekeeping and whining I think I've ever seen. Now, before you immediately click off this video, because no one these days wants to hear anything they don't actually like, I'm making this video now because I plan to play Elden Ring when it comes out in a few hours. I'm hoping that it will change my opinion of the Souls franchise and the FromSoftware games in general. But I wanted to offer a constructive viewpoint for why I think FromSoftware games are overrated. It's easy to assume that anyone who thinks a FromSoftware game isn't that good is just not happy about the insanely unreasonable difficulty level in these games. But guys, I mean, that's never been an issue for me. I beat Demon Souls when it first came out. I almost finished Bloodborne. I played Dark Souls. I mean, in spite of that, however, I have never found a single one of these games held my attention for more than just, oh, it's fun for a little while, and then fuck this game attitude. I only made it 10 hours into Sekiro before I got pissed off. But the problem with the FromSoftware games, I think, is more the fan base than just about anything else. There's extreme gatekeeping with that. Now, personally, I don't feel like you have to have a lower difficulty to sell this game, but I do believe that it should be an option. You shouldn't expect someone to be an elite max-level gamer just to play a video game. It's freaking stupid. It's like the Souls games are set to the legendary difficulty settings, and there's no way to turn them off. Now, I love legendary difficulty settings. I've beaten nearly every game I actually like on legendary, but I don't really like to start games on legendary. I'm one of those guys who likes to experience the game and then play it on a difficulty that crushes your soul. And this is why the FromSoftware community becomes so toxic. Anytime you criticize these games for any reason, they just shout "get good" over and over again. Or they yell at each other. Or they tell you that the reason you don't like the game is because you're not good at it. When in reality, there's a lot of problems with the FromSoftware formula that I wanted to shine a light on. So I'm not bashing these games because they're difficult. This will not be another rant about how we need a difficulty option in a FromSoftware game because it's kicking my ass too hard. As a matter of fact, I think the noteworthy positive that FromSoftware has brought to the industry is the return of difficulty. Because before the massive success of the Dark Souls games, we were getting more and more games like Destiny, where the game was so unbelievably easy that dying was actually difficult. And even when you did die, the game didn't punish you in the slightest. But the success of the FromSoftware games proved that people still want a challenge in their games. And I thank FromSoftware for that. I think they've done a great job of rekindling that in the industry. However, that doesn't mean the games they make are the unquestioned masterpieces they're made out to be by most of their extremely hardcore fan base. FromSoftware's games started off with a very small fan base. I'm pretty sure I'm one of the few people who actually played through Demon Souls on the original PlayStation 3. Now that fan base grew much larger going forward. I think many people beat the Dark Souls games. Now, I only played a little bit of the first Dark Souls game, a lot of Bloodborne, and a whole lot of Sekiro. But, you know, I think a lot of my frustration came from Demon Souls being my first experience. And that game was harder than fossilized Triceratops feces. And I kept waiting to be given something for my effort, and it never came. So, the issue with FromSoft games, I believe, has nothing to do with their difficulty. Now, don't get me wrong, I would actually prefer a lower difficulty on my first playthrough. I don't like dying 40 times on a boss. I think it's annoying. I don't like having to beat enemies the way the game designers want me to beat them. And I also find that the FromSoftware combat tends to get boring once you get good at it, because you can normally destroy most of the lower level enemies in 1 or 2 hits. So it's just a boss rush game, which I'm not a huge fan of either. But difficulty is not the big issue. First, I want to talk about the game formula FromSoftware's games use, and they borrow heavily from survival horror games. Now, survival horror games back in the old days, in like the Resident Evil 2, 1999, 1997, 1998, those years, they worked on a reward/punishment system. So you would kill all the zombies in whatever area of the mansion you were in, and there'd be no more zombies or monsters of any kind until you solved the next puzzle, or found the next door, or found the next key to move on to the next area, which you would be rewarded by progressing further in the game and getting more story. but you would be punished because now the enemies would respawn and you'd have big monsters chasing you, but you would be rewarded because you would push forward. Now, in some ways, this is how FromSoftware games work, but see, the difference is FromSoftware games work on a punishment slash punishment slash punishment system. There is no reward in the FromSoftware game. So let me explain to you what I mean by that. So, in the survival horror game, when you move forward in the game, you are punished by getting more and more enemies. And since the survival horror games, you don't have enough ammo to overcome all the challenges in front of you, meaning you're going to have to really, really be skilled to stay alive. Now, in a FromSoftware game, advancing forward does give you a new group of enemies. However, going backwards or dying also gives you a new group of enemies. So does loading, saving, or leveling up. So anything you do in a FromSoftware game, you're punished for. It's a punishment system. You're like an abused dog. No matter what you do in these games, you're punished. And then in previous ones before Elden Ring, I haven't turned on Elden Ring yet, I'm hoping it's different, the enemy scaled with you. I think Sekiro got rid of the enemy scaling with you, but I'm not sure. Since the enemy scaled with you every time you leveled up, every enemy around you will level up. This means you're even punished for leveling up. Although leveling up is critical because I don't think the bosses actually leveled up. So, you ended up in this never-ending cycle of punishment. And your reward for all that hard work was often another boss that would take you 40 times to beat. And since the game's story is so open to interpretation, let's say, with the lack of any real major cutscenes and stuff, I think there's one at the beginning and the one at the end of a lot of these games, and a huge amount of it requiring online reading and in-book game reading, there's very little actual motivation to continue forward unless you're just sitting there reading books. Now, I remind a lot of you Soul fans who actually decided to stick around and listen to an opinion that wasn't the same as your own, these days that's commendable, that we all the time bash games like Destiny and The Division that have tons and tons and tons of their story and lore locked behind internet searches, books, extended universe, television shows, because you feel like you're not getting a full experience when you play a game. But you're giving FromSoftware and Dark Souls and the FromSoftware series a pass for doing the same exact thing. And this is where the other problem with these games come in, is the story is so undefined, so nebulous. It can be very difficult to actually feel any motivation to move on to the next area if you're like I am, who plays games because you enjoy interesting narratives or experiences. Now, sometimes you can tell stories with environment and characters, but I don't feel like, personally, the FromSoftware games have done a very good job of this in their time. In spite of the fact I know I might be in the minority in that viewpoint, I don't see how that's a true statement. And this kind of lack of directed story plus the punishment on top of punishment system often just makes me lose interest in the games rather than the games breaking me for their difficulty. A lot of times I'll beat a boss in one of these games and then not go forward. Bloodborne, I quit right after killing one of the game's main bosses. I just didn't see the point in going forward anymore because I didn't understand why I was even caring. You see, I'm not just going to care because somebody is fighting me in a video game. My give a damn is not there, and I don't care. So if I don't care, then how does the game make me care? Now, some games are great at this. Some games make you care a lot. Like Mass Effect makes you care about characters. Halo makes you care about the Lord. For Doom, it's about the combat. God of War is about Kratos' and Atreus' journey. Call of Duty focuses on real-life countries and events to build in care. But care is something even movies struggle with. Why do I care? Now, for a lot of you FromSoftware fans, it seems like you guys care because you enjoy overcoming the game's extreme challenge. As a matter of fact, I believe that's why there's so much gatekeeping on the removal of difficulty, because even the biggest Souls fan on earth knows there's nothing there but the difficulty. Without it, all you have is a game with some incredibly impressive visuals, but without much soul to it. You see, you don't have to continue forward in the video game. I know that you guys really get off on overcoming these insane challenges, these giant bosses, these incredible encounters of difficulty. It makes you happy, it makes you feel accomplished, and my hat's off to you on that. But there is no reason to push forward in these games, in my opinion. In real life, you have to push forward, because if you stop, you die. But in the video game, I can just turn it off. I can turn off a Dark Souls game and sleep like a baby the next night. I don't need to beat the boss. So what is it that makes me want to come back and play these games? And in the past, guys, it's been nothing. It's been nothing. Nothing has made me want to come back and play these games. And that's why I've only ever finished one of them. I always just get burnt out before I get to the end. So we talked a little bit about the problem with the core concept of the Soul games. We talked about the failed story. Now we're going to talk about the gameplay. Now, this is the one area where I'm cutting into a level of blasphemy that will get any Souls fan who actually watches this video mad at me. But the combat in FromSoftware Games is incredibly overrated. It is nowhere near as good as the new God of War game, for example, or the new Devil May Cry game, for example. Instead, it's an intentionally clunky system that requires extremely slow attack times, extremely slow dodge times, and extremely frustrating one-hit deaths. This is not a fun combat system. You can make a game hard. You can put God of War on its hardest difficulty right out of the gate, and it's going to fuck you up. Hell, you might die just as many times in God of War as you would in a Dark Souls game. But God of War is going to be 50 times more fun, because the combat system is fast and fluent instead of slow and clunky. Could you imagine if, when you played Doom 2016, if every time you fired a gun, you had to stop for a second between shots and wait? You wouldn't have liked Doom 2016. You would have thought it was terrible. You would have been frustrated and angry. But put Doom 2016 on its hardest difficulty, and you're going to get fucked up real fast. I don't care if you're a Souls god. Oh, and Doom 2016 also has story. So the problem I always had with the FromSoftware games was their extremely clunky combat. And I've had people tell me before it's more realistic, and those people have never actually been in combat, fist fighting, using swords, or anything like that, because nobody attacks like that in real life. That's more realistic to maybe a way a movie attacks, where it's super slow and super taking its time, so you have plenty of time to think about it. That's not how it happens in real life, guys. But the FromSoftware games often fall far short, in my view, in combat. They also often limit other D&D core concepts like magic using, which becomes more of an addition to combat than actually combat itself. And in this way, the gameplay never really starts to feel more than the sum of its parts. It always stays, to me, to be a clunky, frustrating combat engine where you're forced to take way too long between attacks, where rolling takes literally half of your stamina. Now, I know what you're going to say. There's better builds in this game where you can have more stamina. I understand that. But my point was, the combat just doesn't feel fluent. It doesn't feel like one attack leads into the next, one dodge leads into the next attack, one perfectly placed heavy attack takes half an enemy's health line. These things make combat feel fluent. I've heard people say that the combat from Dark Souls and FromSoftware games feels more heavy and weighted, and is actually quite fluent, but I've never felt that when I'm playing them, personally. Now, if I don't like the combat, I don't like the story, I don't like the gameplay, what is it about FromSoftware games I do like? Well, to be fair to FromSoftware, there are some actually incredible things this company has done for the industry. The first is the resurrection of true difficulty. Without FromSoftware, I don't know where we'd be right now. I feel like games would play themselves with one button press unless you turned it off. Instead, what we get is a revitalization of difficulty in games thanks to FromSoftware. Although a lot of people who make difficulty in games, I'm not sure, actually understand how to do it like FromSoftware, but they still do an excellent job of putting difficulty back in games, and that is completely because of FromSoftware and their fine ability to prove that American gamers aren't stupid, lazy, fat morons who can't even play a video game if it doesn't just let us walk over it. That was the Japanese belief for some time, is that if you make a game too hard, it can't sell in the West. The other thing FromSoftware does so well is visuals, vistas, and areas. I will admit that looking at some of the stuff in these games and playing through parts of these games, the reasons I got so far into Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and I beat Demon Souls was because of the incredible visuals they put into these games. These insanely amazing kind of surreal dream monsters and enemies and areas. You have to truly respect the amount of work they put into these games. The amount of love and handcrafting they put into these games. It's basically like an old-fashioned Bethesda game before they started doing stuff like Fallout 76. Here's hoping that Starfield will bring Bethesda back to what they're supposed to be, because I miss Bethesda. And FromSoftware has done so much good in the industry. I don't hate them. I don't even dislike them. I actually think FromSoftware is very good for the industry. I don't even get mad when I see IGN give a FromSoftware game a 9 out of 10. I'm fine with it. If you enjoy these games, I completely understand. But the thing that pisses me off so much about FromSoftware fans is this bullshit, gatekeeping, self-righteous attitude. I'm going to be clear with you guys right now. You've accomplished nothing by beating Dark Souls. I accomplished nothing by beating the Evil Within on Akira mode, or Halo 5 on Legendary before they fixed it, where it was considered to be impossible to beat. I accomplished nothing there. You accomplished nothing by beating Dark Souls. Nothing. Nothing was accomplished. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get to enjoy it and you didn't have fun, but you didn't accomplish anything. So stop being assholes to people online who just aren't good enough to play these games. You know as well as I do, if you take out the difficulty, there's not a lot there. And that's the problem for me. I need more than just challenge. Challenge is great. That's why I start every game on hard and then bump them up to legendary. But without reason, what really is it? So my hatred has never been directed towards FromSoftware. It honestly is directed more towards the Dark Souls community, and not even the whole Dark Souls community. Just the community's more toxic elements. The people who see someone online saying they're struggling with the game, asking for help, and only responses get good and troll them. However, even some of the community's less toxic elements can at times become kind of toxic. Take a guy like the Ackman. I'm a huge fan of the Ackman, but he had a 40-minute video I watched the other day about why it's not okay to put a difficulty mode in a Souls game, and it triggered me. He was comparing it to taking out critical elements of other games. Like the difficulty was the critical element of Dark Souls. Every game has difficulty. People act like Dark Souls has a unique level of difficulty, but it really doesn't. I mean, you can put just about any game on an insane difficulty right out of the box. Now, I will admit, games without difficulty are terrible. Just terrible. A lot of times people forget that whether it be an easy game like Destiny 2, or a very hard game like Dark Souls, difficulty is supposed to be designed so all players of all skill levels can enjoy your game. Instead, when you don't include a difficulty, you eliminate certain people. I don't want to play Diablo 3 or Destiny because I fall asleep playing them. A guy who doesn't play video games very often or finds Diablo 3 or Destiny very fun to play may not want to play Dark Souls because they can't. But that doesn't mean that everybody who says a Souls game isn't good is just not able to play it. I have now given you guys other reasons for why the Souls games disappoint me. Now, you might not agree with any of them. You might think the story's great. You might not mind having to go out and research it or the nebulous nature of it. You might think the gameplay is incredible. And you may think the weighty combat is better than the fluent combat of God of War because it creates more challenge. And you might think the game's core system of punishment makes your success more. And I understand that it's a true concept in real life. If you spend a day in hell, say you're outside in the cold, getting rained on and getting beat up all day, when you come home and you have a hot shower and you sit by the heat and you have some soup, it's so much better than if you just sit down and have some soup. I give you guys that, but that's real life. In real life, you go forward because you need to. Otherwise, your body gets weak and you become pathetic. In video games, I have no reason to go forward. Dark Souls FromSoftware Games have previously failed to capture any belief in my heart or any place in my heart. The only reason I even care about them is because anytime you say something bad about a FromSoftware game, the Souls fans feel the need to jump out and defend it. My own brother and I have gotten in multiple arguments. He used to hate these games, but he likes Sekiro. No beef. I have no beef with him on that. But he gets mad that I don't and will argue with me straight up about it. He's done it before. Me and him got in an argument so bad one night, I remember. I just hung up on him and gave it like 3 days before I talked to him again because he was pissing me off so much. If you love these games, that's fine, but shut the fuck up when someone doesn't. Get over it. I don't like them. Get over it. Now, why did I do this? I made this video right now because I'm about to play Elden Rings. I want this on record. So if I come out in a month and I drop a review that says Elden Rings is 10 out of 10, I want you guys to know what I felt about FromSoftware Games to start with. If I drop a review that says Elden Ring is a boring pain in the ass and a 4 out of 10, I want you guys to know I don't like these games to start with. I'm not trying to hide that. I want you guys to know that so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. Because if you're a true FromSoftware fan, my opinion may mean nothing to you. But there's a lot of us out there who are waiting for a FromSoftware game that we actually like. So I wanted to get this out right now to put that out and see whether or not Elden Ring can become that game that us FromSoftware haters can finally learn to like. Thanks guys for watching this. If you did, if you're a Souls fan, once again, no, I have no beef with you, and I really appreciate you seeing through the video. I really do think you deserve credit these days, because nobody can hear an opinion anymore that's opposed to what they believe. So, thanks guys, either way. I may do an Elden Rings review, I don't know yet. I might not even play but like 5 hours, or I might just do a thing where I talk about it. We'll see how that goes. Yeah guys, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.